Okay, so we have a new episode of Legends and Leaders, and today it's great to have Akshay here. You're the CEO and co-founder of jackpot.com, which has really taken this whole world by storm. You've now enabled people to use and have an online presence with the way that they would typically get lottery tickets, and just change that entire process around jackpot in general, which has made it more accessible, more usable, and just easier in general as a process. So I'm excited to have you here and get into your story and talk about how the digitization of this space is happening.
Thanks so much for having me, Ben. Really appreciate it. Super excited to be here and always love talking all things lottery tickets.
Awesome. So it seems like you kind of started out your career more on like the investment side of things, working in different organizations over there, which I'm sure you got exposed to lots of different areas of interest. Can you just talk a bit about like how your foundation as an entrepreneur happened and what made you want to be entrepreneurial in your life?
Yeah, for sure. I've had at least three chapters to my career, to the best of my recounting. As you mentioned, I started out in the investment space, started out working in private equity, particularly focused in the consumer space, went to business school, truthfully, fully thought I was going to come back to working in finance. During business school, really drank the Kool-Aid of do what you're passionate about. And, I grew up in a somewhat traditional immigrant, Asian family. Do what you're passionate about. It's not something that we get told a lot by our parents. And so business school was really the first time that I heard that mentioned in a compelling way. And I knew that my passion lay somewhere in sports media entertainment. I just didn't know what that actually meant. I didn't know anyone who worked in the industry. In my mind, it was for former professional athletes, and I'm certainly not one of those. Um, and I was just very fortunate to ask a lot of people the right questions and eventually meander my way through a series of phone calls and meetings that I had with people who worked in the industry who gave me some great advice. And I ended up spending the next 7.5-ish years of my career working in sports media and entertainment. Initially for the ownership group of the Philadelphia 76ers, New Jersey Devils, Prudential Center, now the Washington Commanders, the ownership group named Hair Splitzer Sports and Entertainment. And then spending 4.5 years at StubHub in a variety of different roles, culminating in running the entire North America business, heading into the pandemic, coming out of the pandemic, selling the business from eBay ownership to a private equity backed consortium, really experiencing quite the adventure and quite the roller coaster ride of what that business had to go through at a time when there were no live events. And then I would say the third chapter of my life, which is, as I mentioned, all things lottery ticket, is the jackpot piece. And I always tell people I listen to these podcasts and I hear these stories of these founders who started lemonade stands when they were 2 years old and were going door to door, raking driveways or whatever it might be. And they would just have this entrepreneurial drive. Not me. That is not me at all. I am absolutely an accidental entrepreneur. I see that in my wife. She's had that entrepreneurial spirit. She runs her own business. She's a founder and CEO of her own business. Her father is a very successful entrepreneur. That wasn't me at all. And truthfully, I never really saw myself in any kind of an entrepreneurial journey. It was just a connection of right place, right time, met my co-founders. They're the ones who had the idea. The idea seemed like a total no-brainer and brilliant, right? People buy hundreds of billions of dollars of lottery tickets in America every year, and a tiny, tiny fraction of that is purchased online. When you look at e-commerce trends in every other industry, why wouldn't that apply to lottery tickets? And so when I heard the idea, when I got a chance to fall in love with my co-founders, it felt like the right next step to take in my career. But certainly I am not one of those founders that you read about that have had this be who they were going to be their entire lives.
Yeah, I mean, everyone has their own start, so it's interesting hearing, the direction that you had. I mean, it seems like you had great exposure to understanding the world of like digital ticketing, which I think there's a lot of overlap with Jackpot.com and StubHub, and then also just like you're seeing just like how entertainment businesses operate with Harris Blitzer. I mean, that's an amazing firsthand account. Like, how did that shape your perspective with Jackpot.com? How did those
Yeah,
experiences influence you?
I think being in the consumer space in general was incredibly valuable, and that extends all the way back to my investing time and investing in businesses that had very strong consumer footprints at massive amounts of scale. Seeing that with sports media entertainment consumers during my time at Harris Blitzer, but I would say probably most relevant was, in a way, the StubHub story is not that different from the Jackpot story. Both were predicated on a central premise, which was, or which is, that as the world moves online, the simplicity, convenience, safety, and security of transacting online versus physically going to purchase a certain kind of ticket. In StubHub's case, a live event ticket at the box office. In our case, a jackpot, a lottery ticket at a convenience store, gas station, or grocery store. The convenience, safety, and security of being able to do that online in a monitored, secured way, it just so far trumps the analog experience. And so the bet that we took at Jackpot, not that dissimilar to the bet that the StubHub founders took 20 years ago and obviously absolutely nailed, which is that people will always opt for the convenience. What I like to say, that the internet is undefeated. And if we create the infrastructure to allow people to order these tickets in a way that gives them that simplicity, that gives them that convenience, while at the same time ensuring that all the guardrails and the protective measures and the regulatory frameworks are adhered to extremely strictly, eventually people are going to come and want to transact online. That's just the way in which the world is moving. That's the bet that we're taking at Jackpot. The other part of it is there's an entire selection of individuals who've either never bought a lottery ticket or who maybe bought one last year or one 2 years ago, but are not frequent lottery ticket buyers. And that's the group that we're really excited about, because those people have never transacted on a lottery ticket. And our hypothesis, backed up by a bunch of user research, is that the reason they haven't done it is because of how inconvenient they find the current ways in which one has to transact in order to order lottery tickets. And so there's an entire group of people that have never done this before. And by giving them this platform, this digital platform, we are bringing on a bunch of consumers who've looked at it from afar, maybe pay attention when the jackpots hit 800 million or a billion or 2 billion, but have never transacted because in their minds, they've always thought it's a lot of work to drive down to my nearest 7-Eleven, or there are all these other things that I can do with the tap of my phone. Do I really want to go to the trouble of buying a lottery ticket? And I think for those people, we're offering them for the first time a solution to transact the way that they want to transact. And, it's 2025. That usually involves a phone of some sort.
So how did you think about like designing this experience and like how to make it, for people that you're talking about here, people that really haven't been into this space yet, or also target the people that are buying these lottery tickets in person? How did you think about developing a digital experience that would rival the in-person experience and also be better?
Look, it's really important to cater to both sets of demographics, right? We want to make sure that for people who've never bought a lottery ticket before, who don't know what a line is, who don't know what pick five means, who don't know, how to think about various types of draw-based games, we want to have a sufficiently explanatory experience so that they don't get intimidated by that experience. Because theoretically, at least, they could ask the questions that they may have to someone behind the counter of a physical location where they went to buy that ticket. So we wanted to make sure that we gave new consumers, the people who are net new to the lottery buying experience altogether, a very clear how this works. And if you go through our platform, whether it's on our app or through our website, you will find toggles and click-throughs that will explain every aspect of that buying process and individual aspects of every game that we sell on our platform, so that people don't feel intimidated and so that people feel like they're buying what they're getting what they're buying with the full amount of knowledge. I think to a large extent, this has been made even more interesting by the fact that recently, about 7 or 8 months ago, in addition to selling what people traditionally think of as draw-based games, Powerball, Mega Millions, Cash for Life, Pick Five, those types of games, we also added scratchers. And scratch-offs in particular are something that appeal to people across the board because you really don't need to know anything. You're not sitting there saying, what numbers do I think are going to win? You're not thinking about the next draw. You're literally buying a piece of paper. You're taking your finger or your coin and you're just scratching something off. And so we've created an experience that simulates that gives you that feel of scratching and anticipation and the excitement, while again cutting out the need to leave your home. And so we try to cater to both the category of people that play regularly, who view lottery tickets as a form of entertainment that they engage in on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, as well as that core demographic of customers that makes up a significant chunk of our customers, who are people who, in all likelihood, had never purchased a lottery ticket before they familiarize themselves with our platform. And so we go out of our way to make sure that we are explaining everything to them so that they understand exactly what they're buying.
How do you think about just like the odds of lottery tickets and like, I mean, the odds are generally kind of quite low. Like, how do you think about like communicating, what the opportunity really is here to people? Because I think sometimes like some people kind of get confused about that. And do you think that that changes with online with the ease of access and like we've seen with online casinos today? I mean, it's so easy to go and gamble. It's even easier than it ever has been. What do you kind of think about like the I don't know, like I guess the responsibility of jackpot.com to kind of be as transparent as possible around that.
So we are as transparent as need be. We'll explain, the various factors that go into each game. The odds are sort of well published. Obviously, games like Mega Millions and Powerball have the lowest odds of victory. A bunch of scratchers, they have much higher chances of victory, right? And so when people think about the crazy 1 in 300 million type odds, they're thinking about winning that big jackpot in Powerball and Mega Millions.
Yeah.
What a lot of people don't realize, and we try to explain to them, is that's not the only prize, right? There are $1 million prizes, $50,000 prizes, $10,000 prizes, $100 prizes, $4 prizes. And so the 1 in 290 million, sure, is the odds of winning kind of that headline big multi-hundred million, multi-billion dollar jackpot. But there are prizes up and down the spectrum. To your point around kind of regulatory and responsible gaming requirements, there are very, very strict requirements in place, and we adhere to those requirements, absolutely without any questions and without any room for interpretation. And so on our platform, you will see our commitments to responsible gaming. You will see that we have spend limits and deposit limits. You will see that we monitor both technologically and manually to make sure that no one is taking advantage of those limits or no one is finding a way to game the system for those limits. And generally speaking, by the fact that most lottery tickets are fairly low denomination relative to, say, casino or sportsbook or other forms of online gaming, generally speaking, we have substantially fewer responsible gaming issues. We take every single one very, very seriously. We were, and I believe to this day still are, the only company in the online gaming space to launch with what's called ICAP certification from the National Council of Problem Gambling, basically certifying that we went above and beyond to make sure that we adhered to every guideline before we ever sold a single ticket. A lot of companies will sort of add those guidelines as they get up to a certain scale or as they go along. We felt very strongly, both because of, truthfully, personal stories of gambling addiction that we have dealt with, and the employees at our company have dealt with, family members have dealt with, but also because it's the right thing to do. And we think it's good for business to be very transparent. We think it's the right thing to do to make sure that the rules that are in place we are following to the letter of the law and even above and beyond that.
That's fantastic. That's great. When you think about like actually just bringing like this whole experience of lottery into the digital age, right? We've had the typical scratch offs. You can go into a convenience store and get one, right? Or you can just go get a number for the Powerball. But like what you can do with digital, besides giving access to it, is you can kind of maybe change the way these games are done or add a new element to them. How are you kind of thinking about that? Of like, what the next version of these games look like?
So private lotteries obviously are not legal in the United States. Every lottery in the U.S. is run by the state or by a collection of state lottery associations, and so we actually can't change any of the games. Ultimately, what we are is, at the end of the day, we are a distribution arm and a marketing arm of the state lotteries. Right? We go out of our way to try to make sure that the state lotteries are being marketed in a efficient, effective, and responsible way. We do offer, by offering in every kind of game, by increasing our offering of scratch offs, by increasing our offering of games in every state in which we operate. We believe that we are continuing to do our job to expand the distribution of lottery tickets for each state. But generally speaking, we can't add our own features. What we can do is make sure that every new feature that the state decides to add in conjunction with its partners who are developing the game, we're being able to offer fairly quickly in our version online.
Yeah, that's interesting. Um, yeah, I mean, I also wanted to discuss with you like how you guys got the jackpot.com, domain name. I just like also your branding, branding around that because it doesn't sound like an easy domain name to get. I'm sure there's, a story there or something. So yeah, it'd be great to hear how you did it.
All credit goes to one of my co-founders. He pounced on that name when it was available many years ago, and as you can imagine, it's one
Yeah.
of the really the parts of our business that we're really proud of. We love our name. We believe it's the perfect name for the type of business that we are in. We get asked that question all the time, and it's just a combination of fortuitous timing and really solid vision from one of my co-founders. And the belief that it would anchor the business that we are building today. And I think relative to what we do, we are very proud that as company names go, it's immediately identifiable what you're doing at jackpot.com.
Yeah. So your co-founder had an idea for some sort of online, lottery type system of claiming tickets like years and years ago, like
My
early on the
co-founders have
internet.
built co-founders have built companies in the online lottery space for many years. Some of which they've sold, some of which they've wrapped into other businesses, and so they're extremely experienced in this space. And so, yes, they're the ones who had this idea. They're the ones who were really the vision behind what Jackpot.com could become, and what hopefully we're a few steps into that journey of becoming.
Yeah. So what does the process look like to go and get a new state to give you the opportunity to offer, lottery or anything in this kind of gaming world on your website? Like how complicated is that to get the approvals and where are you at in terms of, more states and expansion and also international?
Everything regulatory is always more complicated than it seems. We're very fortunate that the states that we work with have seen the value proposition of what we offer. They view us as being complementary to the existing channels. At the end of the day, the money from lottery tickets go towards good causes, typically public education, in some case, veterans affairs, public health. Uh, States are incentivized to make sure that that money that is going to good causes continues to come in. And with the world moving into a digital space, they understand the value that companies like jackpot.com provide to the individual state lotteries. We've had varying degrees of success. With some states, it's an ongoing negotiation. Some states, they see it immediately and they get it and they say, great, we approve and implicitly or explicitly bless your ability to do what you do here in this state. In terms of new state openings, I would say watch the space. As you can imagine, we can't really disclose the specifics of where we're going, but the goal is to be able to offer this product in every one of the states in the United States that has a state lottery, because we believe that if a state lottery exists, there is no reason why people should not be able to purchase those tickets using their phones in the same way that they're able to do so at a convenience store, at a grocery store. And so every state that has a state lottery in the U.S., our goal is to be able to provide our service to people in each one of those states. And as you mentioned, internationally, we also do have a business in the UK. We're constantly evaluating new opportunities, but our focus right now is very much on the U.S. market. Just given the scale and given the customer voice and given the branding, we are an American company at the end of the day, and that's really who we're most focused on.
When you think about like international, how different are the lottery systems in these different countries? Are they all state, government controlled generally?
Generally government controlled, generally either operated by the government or using a third party provider that they contract out to. And each country has a completely different set of games, a completely different set
Yeah.
of rules, a completely different regulatory and philosophical approach to allowing the sale of lottery tickets online. And so, I like to think from a regulatory perspective, America is a set of 50 different countries. Each one of those
Yeah.
countries outside of America is its own country in terms of a regulatory framework. And so it is extremely complicated to add new countries in the same way that it is extremely complicated to add new states, because each state has its own set of games to some extent, oftentimes its own set of rules. Classic example of this being the state that we went into most recently, Arizona, only allows people who are 21 and above to buy lottery tickets. In every other state that we're in, it's 18 and above. And so those rules can be different state by state, country by country. And we obviously adapt our platform to make sure that we're adhering to the rules of each individual jurisdiction in which we operate.
Yeah, makes sense. When you look at like the process of scaling this, I mean, of course, the more states that you have, the more reach that you have, but you have a whole, I mean, you're not in convenience stores in the same way that the typical lottery ticket is. I mean, you have to, of course, market in other avenues. How do you effectively market? I mean, there may be some limitations on what you can do with communication. What are some of the approaches you have now to just getting the word out around jackpot.com, which is, of course, a great branding approach?
So we're fortunate that our name does a lot of the legwork for us, as you mentioned. We use all of your traditional digital media channels. You'll see our ads on Facebook or on Instagram or on Google, on television sometimes, and the radio. My friends will send me selfies that they will take in the New York City subway where we have ads in the trains. If you go to a Yankee game, you'll see ads on the LED screens inside Yankee Stadium. We also were very proud to announce a partnership with 7-Eleven last year. 7-Eleven is the single largest retailer of lottery tickets in the United States. And
Wow.
if you go into many 7-Elevens in the states in which we operate, you'll actually see jackpot.com signage. And so we have a partnership with 7-Eleven for the digital lottery space, the online lottery space. And so we actually are in retail in a way. And so we use all of these various mechanisms to acquire customers. And then we hope that our platform does the rest. We hope that the functionality, the ease of use, the user interface really convince people that they enjoy this experience, especially for that large chunk of our customer base that's never bought a lottery ticket before. They say, wow, I never bought a lottery ticket before because of A, B, and C. And jackpot.com solved that problem for me. And now I'm perfectly happy transacting once a week, once a day, once a month, once a year, whatever it might be, that customers enjoy doing on our platform.
How does the 7-Eleven partnership work? Because they can sell lottery tickets in person. How do you add the value to them essentially? Is there more of an offering online that you can have that they can't have?
Well, so it's a combination, right? So 7-Eleven doesn't sell any lottery tickets online. This allows them to have an online presence. And so if you're in 7-Eleven and you're already in the store and you're buying whatever it might be, Twix bar or bottle of Diet Coke, and you happen to see a scratch off or you happen to see a Powerball, you happen to see the sign that says, oh, the Powerball is at 600 million. Maybe you buy a lottery ticket there. That's in the afternoon. You go home and your spouse says, oh, you only bought one Powerball ticket, but I just saw on the news that the Powerball jackpot's at 600 million. Maybe we'll get lucky, win that 600 million. Maybe we should buy a couple more tickets. Now you have two choices. You can either go back to that 7-Eleven, or while you were in 7-Eleven, you actually saw a sign for a company just called jackpot.com. You scanned your QR code, you downloaded our app, you were a joint 7-Eleven and Jackpot customer. And now from the comfort of your home, you can say, okay, great. I bought one ticket while I was in 7-Eleven shopping for other things. Now I'm going to buy another couple of tickets on jackpot.com. I don't need to leave my home. And it's sort of a seamless blend of, the in-person experience and the digital, I don't need to go back to the brick and
Yeah,
mortar store experience.
totally. That's great. Just the last question I have, like, what does the roadmap look like for you now? Like, actually, like, what's your big picture vision for jackpot.com? What does the next couple of years look like?
I think the biggest picture vision is we want to become more than just a lottery platform. I think you will see, if you watch this space, you will see us offering more than just lottery games to our players over time. And we want to become a digital entertainment platform across the country. And you will see that process in the coming months, in the coming years, if you follow the space. As I mentioned, one of the sub aspects of that is ensuring we can get to a point with our regulatory approvals that we're able to offer our service to every state in America that has a lottery. We are still far away from fulfilling that dream. The goal is to be able to do that in the coming months and years as we continue to have conversations with every state lottery, and to explain to them that really we believe there is a huge value that we're adding not only in the increase in sales that comes about and the increase in money that goes into the coffers of these very positive public goods, but also in the enjoyment that the consumers, the citizens of that state are getting by being able to purchase lottery tickets on their phone for now, lottery tickets, and tomorrow, as I mentioned, plenty of other kinds of games.
Wow. Well, I'm excited to see the full vision come to life. I think it's great what you're doing. I mean, to be able to buy lottery tickets online, it's a big deal to have a proper platform to do that. And it can be very inconvenient at times to see, like you mentioned that example with the 7-Eleven, see where the Powerball is at, and then have to go make a
Mm-hmm.
trip, especially if it's late at night, and
Totally.
things like that. And you guys solve that problem. So I look forward to where this is going to go, and I think you're on the right track here, and excited to see what's next. Thanks for coming on.
I really appreciate you having me. I appreciate you saying that. And we are super excited to go on this journey.
Awesome.